Religious people call it prayer. Atheists call it the placebo effect. Scientists call it quantum physics. And spiritualists call it the law of attraction. Manifestation. Manifestation is something that we are all constantly doing. We are constantly manifesting. I am currently manifesting. You are manifesting, whether you realize it or not. And the thing is that if you don't realize that you are in a constant state of manifestation, you will end up manifesting things that perhaps you don't want to manifest in your life. And I think that a lot of people live their lives this way, manifesting the unwanted. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you how you can manifest the life that you so desire. As I said, we're all constantly manifesting. Now the question is, are you manifesting things that you want or things that you don't want, right? Now you, of course, I hope so, would like to know and start applying how you can manifest things that you want. I remember the first time that I started to notice that perhaps there was something more to this world, that everything wasn't just, oh, so this happened, what a coincidence. Oh, well, this is life. The first time I realized it was in the New Year's Eve of 2008 going to 2009. I had just turned 19 years old, I remember. I was living in an apartment with a friend of mine, and that night we threw a big New Year's party. I will always remember. Right before New Year's hit, right before midnight, I went in my bedroom and I looked for a little piece of paper. So I had this little ritual that I started doing probably when I was about 15 years old, that every year, right before the New Year's, I would write in a little piece of paper something that I wanted to accomplish or to have in my life for the coming year, or more like the theme, the topic of the year to come. And I remember that specific night of December 31st of 2008, I go in my room, I look for the paper. I didn't even remember where I had put it. So I look for the paper, I find it, I open it, and I read on the paper. I had wrote a year prior, I just want to live the good life. That was on the paper. Now, I will always remember, I walk out of my room, because I remember I had closed the door, I was in the dark, and I read the paper. I walk out of my room. On the living room wall, a few months prior to that, my friend and I, we had moved into our apartment, and we painted the whole apartment. Most of the walls were beige, but we did a black wall and a red wall. On the red wall, we had the big TV, but on top of the TV, I will always remember a few months prior to that, we decided to write in nice, like, cursive letters, "Welcome to the good life." Why? I'm not quite certain. I think it was probably because Kanye West came out with the song "Welcome to the Good Life" that a few months before that. So we wrote on the wall, "Welcome to the good life." Now, I had completely forgotten that I wrote on a piece of paper a few months before, I just want to live the good life. I had completely forgotten about it. But I guess somewhere in my subconscious mind it had stayed. So I remember walking out of my bedroom that night. All of our friends were there. There was probably about 100 people. Everyone was happy. There was balloons everywhere. There was food. There was drinks. And everyone was doing the countdown, right? 9, 8, 7. And I just remember feeling like, this is the good life. Now, I was 19 years old, 18 years old. I was very young. That at the time was my version of the good life, living with my best friend and just having our friends over, celebrating life, enjoying life. And I remember after that night, just thinking about, like, what a coincidence it was that we ended up writing on our living room wall, "Welcome to the good life." And a few months before that, I had written on a piece of paper that, like, was it coincidence? But then that's when I started to think, maybe there's something more to that. And this story that I'm sharing with you, when I look back on it, it really goes to show the steps that will take you to manifesting whatever it is that you want. Because there are exactly 5 steps that will allow you to do that, and I'm going to share them with you today. In case you didn't know, it is back to school season here at A.V.A. Enterprises. On September 9th, 2025, we will be starting the 3.0 versions to all of our programs. Here at A.V.A. Enterprises, we have 15 online courses, all of them organized in this pyramid. This is called the A.V.A. Pyramid, the 9 levels of personal and professional development. And depending on where you find yourself on your journey of of development, of growth, you can find whatever it is that you need, depending on which stage you're at. Let's say the first stage, so the first level of this pyramid, it's called awareness. This is when you suddenly realize that, maybe there's more to life for me. Maybe I can do more, maybe I can be more, maybe I can have more. So if you find yourself at this first stage, the perfect program online course for you to grow and to get to the next level would be the Rise. Then once you rise from this level and you go to level 2, that would be change. So this is where you start to change your habits, change your life, change your environment. And of course, the two programs that are here are Change Your Life and Organize Your Life. And it goes on like that. These are the 9 levels where you can situate yourself and say, okay, this is where I'm at, so this is what I need in order to get to the next level, because that's what life is about. It's about growing. It's about elevating yourself and always reaching a higher level. Now, school will be back in session on September 9th. And what we decided to do is that this month we have a mega exclusive, never seen before discount that is up to 80% off on all of these programs. But of course, this is only for now, for this back to school season. So if you want to sign up to our programs, you can simply go in the description below this video, click on the link, explore, discover, see where you're at, and join us for this back to school season. So the first step to manifesting anything that you want in life, and I think it's probably the most important one, is to know what it is that you want. You can be sending mixed signals constantly to the universe. It's as if you are on the Amazon website and you start to say, okay, I want to have this, and then you place your order, but then 2 seconds after or 2 minutes after you say, oh, no, I just found something else. Oh, never mind, I'll cancel this order. Let me cancel, let me get a refund, let me get something else. Do you understand that by doing that, you're just delaying whatever it is that you want to receive, right? So you're not getting what you want to receive, because every single time that you place an order to afterwards cancel it, well, you're not going to get that. So then you place another order and then you cancel it. So it just keeps on delaying the process. And I think that where most people fail tremendously when it comes to manifestation is just sending mixed signals to the universe. And then the universe doesn't know what you want. It just doesn't know where to start with you. It doesn't know what to give you, because you're always saying, I want this, and then you change your mind. Indecisiveness is probably one of the worst habits that a human being can have. Being indecisive will lead you to major failure in your life. So it's very, very important to, first of all, sit down with yourself and say, okay, what is it that I want? But be honest with yourself and be willing to say, you know what, this is the thing that I really want, and I'm willing to sacrifice for this, which leads us to the second step. The second step is called sacrifice. I'm pretty sure you heard in the conspiracy world that people say, you know, there's human sacrifice and people sacrifice, people, and that's how they get what they want. Well, let me actually explain to you what this means. Everything in the esoteric world is actually a metaphor for everything. So when people say, oh, they got famous and rich because they did a human sacrifice, the human sacrifice is actually you. You sacrifice the version that you are currently. There is no possible way for you to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, that vision that you have, that goal that you have, that desire that you have, unless you sacrifice who you currently are, unless the you now dies. I keep on talking this year, if you're watching this in 2025, about renaissance, about rebirth, right? And going through your rebirth. There is no possible way for you to be born again unless you die. There's a version of you that has to die now in order for you to have all of the things that you so desire in life. Because the reality is that if the person that you are right now had what it takes, you would already have the life that you want. Because the life that you desire, let's say the life that you have right now, is a simple reflection of you. Right? You are reflecting that. The universe outside is just a reflection of your inner world, right? So if you, who you are currently, already had what it takes to live and have the things that you want, you would have them. It would be immediate. It would just, there's no other way to it. Einstein said it, everything is energy. If you match your frequency to the reality that you want, you cannot help but have that. There's no other secret than that, right? So the second thing that you must do in order to have the life that you want, to have the manifestation that you want, is look at what is it that I have to sacrifice in order to have that? Do I have to sacrifice this current version of me? Do I have to sacrifice some bad habits? You know, do I have to sacrifice partying with my friends every weekend? Do I have to sacrifice this toxic relationship that I'm in? Do I have to sacrifice spending time with my family because they always tug down on me, or my friends, they always say, you know, that I'm not going to be able to do it. They make me feel bad about myself. What do you need to sacrifice in order to have your manifestation? You cannot manifest what you want unless you do a sacrifice. The third step to manifestation is you must grow your manifestation muscle, because manifesting is like building a muscle. If right now you are broke, let's say you have no money at all, you're struggling, you're in the minuses, right? You don't even know how you're going to be able to buy like the groceries. You can't say, okay, I'm going to manifest me being a billionaire. I don't want to be a millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. That's what I want. And I'm going to manifest, and I'm going to visualize, I'm going to think, and I'm going to sacrifice, and it's going to happen. That's not how it works, because your subconscious mind, which is basically what creates your reality, will say, no, you're not. You're not going to be a billionaire. You can barely pay your rent. So of course you're not going to be a billionaire. So you need to take it step by step. You need to know what it is that you want. You need to know your goal. You need to know what kind of life you want, but you need to know, okay, in order to get there, what is the first reality that I need to approach? I remember for me, when I started my business, at first, my goal wasn't, I want to make $1 million or I want to make $100,000 a month. No, my goal was, I want to make $2,000 a month. If I make $2,000 a month, I will be able to quit my job. Then once I started making $2,000 a month, and I still have this vivid memory, because at the point I was making $2,000 a month, but I said, okay, let me get a part-time job so that I can take this $2,000 that my business makes to reinvest it in the business, and I'll survive from the paycheck that I get from this little job that I have. And I was working at a clothing store, Jones, New York. And I remember every day at closing time, we had to rearrange the clothes, right? So we had to make sure that all of the hangers were at like the equal part. And I still just remember in my head, like calculating the whole time. I would zone out and I would just calculate. I was like, okay, if I make $4,000, then I could do this with the business. I could do that, and I could do that. Then I made 4,000, and it grew like that. But if from the very start, young Alex, 19-year-old, 20-year-old Alex, who has never had a business before, who has never accomplished nothing in her life, who has only worked, for someone who doesn't even know. I remember at the time, I didn't know no one who had a business. I had no business friends. Everyone in my family was, minimum salary employee almost, right? Everyone in my friend group was like that, their parents. So I remember that it wasn't even a possibility. It was so far off that if at 19 I would have said, I'm going to be a millionaire, and my subconscious mind would have said, no, you're not. Like, that's not possible for you. Like, do you see a proof of that? Is that possible? No, I wouldn't have believed it, and therefore I wouldn't have made it happen. So manifestation is a muscle. It's a muscle that you must develop with time. You need to know the vision, but then set small goals and move towards them slowly but surely. And as you accomplish them, each one of them, you start growing this muscle. And then when you get bigger goals, you're like, yes, I can do it, because you know what? I've done this and this and this and that. And that's how it works. Now, the next logical step, the fourth step, is to take action. You must take action. I think it's very funny because there's a lot of people, especially in the spiritual world, right, that teach that no, action is no good, that you just should sit around and wait for this to manifest in your life. I often share the story of the red chair. Let me know in the comments if you know the story of the red chair, and if you don't, let me know in the comments if you want me to share it. But in that story, if I would have just sat there at the table and said, okay, let me meditate on this. A red chair will appear. A red chair will appear here, and it's gonna happen, and I'm going to have my red chair. It wouldn't have happened. I had to get up, I had to go ask, and then ask again, and then insist in order to have the red chair. If not, it wasn't just gonna manifest magically. Maybe if I would have sat there for 10 years and then eventually the hotel would do like a renovation, and then it would so happen that they decide to put red chairs, and I would have been like, oh, you see, it works after 10 years. But no, that's not manifestation. We live in a three-dimensional world, right? And we are three-dimensional beings. This is where the concept of the Trinity comes from. The concept of the Trinity was taken by religion, right? By the Christian religion, but the Trinity is a concept that dates from way before religions, and it's the fact that we are body, mind, and spirit. We are three-dimensional. So you need to understand that you need to reprogram always your mind. You need to master your mind. You need to know how to use your mind. You need to visualize things, but then you also need to use the body to take action, to go knock on doors, to go ask people, to go find opportunities to move forward. You need to do that. And then of course you also need to have the spiritual side where you can meditate, when you can do yoga on it, when you can maybe even use some esoteric things, you know, in order to manifest what you want. But it's important to take action. And then the final step, and it's the most important one. It's the most important one. And like I said, you know, the little story that I shared with you about Welcome to the Good Life, as you can see, I really went through all those steps in that story, right? I knew what I wanted. I wanted the good life. I was 18 years old when I wrote on that paper, and I said, I want to live the good life. You know, that's what I wanted, so I wrote it there. Now, the second thing, of course, is that I had to sacrifice the old Alex. That year, that's the year in the month of August that I moved out of my parents' house. You know, so I stopped being a little girl, you know, living with her parents, and I went on in my own. I had to sacrifice a lot for that. I had to get 2 jobs. You know, I sacrificed going to university and going to Sejep in order to study, because now I had to get a full-time job, right? So there was a lot of sacrifices that needed to be made, of course, to be able to get there. Now, another thing with the story is that at 18, I didn't write on a piece of paper, I want to live the good life and be a multimillionaire and, you know, have a mansion. I didn't write that because, again, that would have been too far off. I just wanted the good life. I just wanted to have fun, to enjoy life with friends, to live the good life of what an 18-year-old girl would live, right? But then the other part also that's very important, oh, and of course I took action, right? So I moved out of my parents' house. I bought furniture, we painted that wall, and we wrote, again, I didn't even remember that I had written on the piece of paper, but we did all those things, right? So I took action. But then the last thing that's also very important about this story is that I surrendered. I forgot about the paper. I forgot that that paper even existed. I didn't even know that it was there. Right? So I just went on, I lived my life, and I trusted that it was going to happen for me. And I think a lot of people mess up their manifestation because they hold on so much to it. And they're in a state of like, it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, I will be devastated, my life will be ruined, and what's gonna happen, you know, and everything. No, you have to surrender. You have to let it go, because if not, it's like, again, let's take the example of Amazon. Imagine you place an order, and then as soon as you place the order, you're calling Amazon, and you're like, so is it coming? Like, when is it gonna come? Like, have you sent it? Have you packaged it? And then you hang up and they say, don't worry, it's coming. Then you call again. Is the order coming? I'm just wondering if it's coming, because if it's not coming, then I'm just going to cancel it, you know, and I'm going to place another order. Eventually, maybe the people at Amazon are going to like ban you from Amazon. If you call every 5 minutes, they're not going to send you your package. They're going to be like, this person is weird. Let's just ban their account and let's not have them on Amazon. It's the same thing. If you're constantly worrying about it and thinking about it and wanting it to happen faster and faster, it's just not going to happen. You're messing it up. So you need to know what it is that you want, do all the steps, and then surrender. And always say, you see, one of my mantras is always, it has to happen, and it will happen only if it is for the greater good. Not just the greater good of me, because very often we're selfish as humans, right? And we want it to happen for us, but no, the greater good of all, right? If it's for the greater good of all, it will happen. And if it doesn't, it's because it was not for the greater good. So here is your ultimate guide to manifestation. The goal with these guides is to give you simple steps, easy to understand, that you can follow, right? So let's not beat around the bush. Let's get straight to the point and let's start taking action. Again, you're a Trinity, right? You are a Trinity. You need to use the body, mind, and spirit to make things happen. So start taking action now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a like. You also subscribe, of course, for new episodes every week here on Alexandra TV. And in the comment section, let me know what other ultimate guides would you like for me to do, and I will consider doing them. I would love to read your comments. And that is it for today. I will see you very soon.